There's a quarterback in this 2025 draft class that I just couldn't go any longer without making a video on, because it's ridiculous to me that he isn't considered in the same conversation as the likes of Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. That quarterback goes by the name of Jaxson Dart. If you do enjoy the content, please consider liking and subscribing as it greatly supports the channel. Jaxson Dart is listed at 6'2", which I think seems pretty accurate. He doesn't look particularly small to me in the pocket, although I would love him to be bigger. Dart is encouraged to take risks and throw the ball deep in this offense. And a misconception I've heard thrown around about Dart is that he doesn't have an arm. At first, I couldn't really understand this, but I wonder if this is maybe actually to do with one of my favourite parts of his game, which is his ability to throw the ball with touch. He has complete control of his throws and gives his receivers more of an opportunity to come down with the ball by just dropping it into the right spot, as opposed to trying to fire it in there. But he does a great job using this skill of his appropriately, and when there is a tight window, he can absolutely throw with zip and with power. I think he's a far more impressive deep ball thrower than his deep ball stats suggest. The deep throw is all about chemistry with your receiver. You need to be on the same page about whether the ball is going to be slightly underthrown so that the receiver can drop underneath for it, or if it's going to be to the outside where only the receiver can get it. Maybe it's just a straightforward toss it up and trust the receiver in a contested catch scenario. Or maybe you're going to go over the top and expect the receiver to win with speed. I saw many occasions where it felt like Dart was on the money and put the ball where he wanted to, but he either wasn't on the same page as his receiver, or his receiver just let him down by not being able to make a play. Now, whilst he is brave and looks to take the opportunities, I actually think he's a very mature decision maker. I haven't seen him try to make a throw that he's not capable of making. He's not predetermining reads, which means he can pick up on these lurking defenders at the last moment before releasing the ball and avoid making those types of mistakes. He's shown the ability to actually manipulate the defense with his eyes, draw defenders into space, and have the understanding of his offense to anticipate what's going to be coming open. Speaking of which, I found his anticipation and timing to be very impressive. A lot of these throws only work because he's throwing the ball right as his receiver is breaking. And of course because he's throwing the ball where only his receiver can get it, which requires some serious ball placement at times. There's a few plays I saw where most young quarterbacks would consider the receiver covered, but Dart recognises that the defender has his back turned, and so there's no real danger of him intercepting the ball, so he gives his receiver a chance to make a play. All of these nuances, all of this advanced understanding, I think Dart is way ahead of Sanders or Cam Ward in terms of processing, and I know he's not running an NFL offense, but most of these guys aren't running a complex offense coming out of college. You look at guys like Will Levis or Desmond Ridder coming out of college, and there's talk about running pro-style offenses. Just because a college quarterback has been running a pro-style offense doesn't mean they can do it effectively. My focus is more on the capacity to run an NFL system, and if you're making the right calls on how long you stay on your first read and whether you pull the trigger or not, that's the most important thing to me. Because once you have that baseline, you should be able to build on it, more so than a quarterback prospect who's going through multiple progressions on every single play, but he's actually making the wrong choices on those progressions. Dart is a dangerous athlete. I think he could do some genuine damage with his legs. The Ole Miss offense started to design run plays for him quite a lot, and his ability to scramble became a fairly prominent part of their offense, which I think there were moments that Dart escaped the pocket, where in the NFL I would rather him hold his ground for an extra second and trust his offense. But this is the case for almost every college quarterback you look at. So does this actually mean I have Jaxson Dart ahead of Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward? It does indeed. There is another prospect who I like, which I'll get to in an upcoming video, but as it stands, I've got Jaxson Dart as QB1 in this draft class. What's really crazy is that whether I'm right or wrong, there's no decision to be made between Dart and Sanders for me. Dart is on another level, so there's a huge disparity between my evaluations and the general consensus. It's much closer between Ward and Dart. I think Cam Ward has the higher upside because he does have a very explosive arm. Dart has a good arm, like I've said, but it's also not going to particularly excite you. However, the Dart is sharp. Both Sanders and Ward struggled with anticipation. They create their own pressures with poor pocket discipline, and the whole thing just looks very collegey. Dart played in the SEC, which is as close to the NFL as you'll get in college, and I just feel like he looks like an NFL quarterback. He's got great pocket presence and feel. He's made a lot of his throws under pressure, defenders in his face, and quite honestly, I think his play on the field reflects his personality because he comes across very well in the interviews I've seen. He's definitely confident, but doesn't come across as arrogant. He just seems bright, measured, and ready to learn. And actually, he seems pretty competitive and tough, which you love to see as well. So there you have it. The Titans hold the number 1 pick, and I think I would draft Jaxson Dart. That's who I see as the future of their franchise. Not that that's necessarily what's going to happen, it's probably not what's going to happen, but that's what I think they should do. If you do enjoy the content, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.